Bubba Radio Network will return after this.
On hold, and I don't want to make him wait too long, is Joshua Dial. He is the former campaign manager of Joe Exotic. He's also the guy that witnessed the Travis guy kill himself. Let me talk to him. Hey, Josh, how are you, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing all right.
You still living in Oklahoma? Is that where home base is for you?
Yes, it is.
Like, how far do you live from, the tiger pit, so to speak?
I moved about 3 hours north of the zoo. Trying to run as far away from it as possible, if you know what I mean.
Is it still operational? Like, is one guy, what's his name, Jeffrey Lowe? Is he still running it?
Yeah, from my understanding, they're awaiting the governor's decision on whether or not they're an essential business. But as far as, in business, yeah, the park's still in business. When Joe got arrested, a lot of his animals got transferred to other animal owners across the country. So
did Carole get any of them? And now she's like really feeling cocky because she's like, not only did I shut him down, but I got 3 or 4 of his tigers.
Yeah, no doubt.
Did she get any of Joe's tigers?
I'm not sure. I know Tim Stark got some. I'm not sure who else got some.
How about that? Do you think, obviously, Tiger King is on? We're a couple weeks behind on the huge pop culture deal, but everybody's just now getting up to speed on it. And don't you think that Doc Antle kind of came out of the documentary the most unscathed? Like they kind of pimped him out a little bit.
Yeah. I was surprised. I didn't know, of course, when we were shooting the documentary, we didn't know that it was going to be, or at least I didn't know it was going to be bought out by Netflix and become a national sensation, it's just so unexpected.
Joshua Dial on the phone, the former campaign manager for Joe Exotic. Now, when they were shooting at Joshua, Carole Baskin has alluded that they didn't know necessarily the direction that they were going to take. And so was it kind of the same way with you guys? Like they would just be there getting all this footage and they basically assembled it in the editing, room and made it the way they wanted to make it. And you guys probably, as you were taping it, didn't know the direction it was going to go.
Sure. Yeah. No. And I didn't. I mean, I was fully aware that I was shooting a film, and my words may very well be twisted, but they weren't. But you couldn't really tell from Eric and Rebecca, the directors. You couldn't really tell what their opinion was because they always seemed like they wanted to defend Joe, but you didn't know if that was because they wanted to, make a good film or if they really believed it. But I've seen their interviews afterwards, and they really believe that. So I think they're kind of allies of the cub petting industry almost.
Now, do you think that you said it was Rebecca and who that were the makers of the film?
Eric.
Do you think that they were kind of working Joe a little bit too, and the fact to get him to even be more outlandish? Because were they telling Joe you're going to be a superstar from this? Because inevitably that's what happened. Now, granted, he's incarcerated, but what were they telling Joe? Like they were telling Carole Baskin said that they were telling her it was going to be completely kind of a fluff job pro her. What were they telling Joe? You were there.
Yeah, they told him it would be a documentary that's going to be in a positive light. These guys have been filming this show for probably 3 or 4 years actually now. They were filming it while I was still working at the park while he was running for governor. So they have just tons of footage.
Can you see them doing another one, like the stuff that they didn't use for this one? Even if you didn't get the 35 or 40 million people that watched it supposedly at this time, but you got, successful documentaries are 10, 12, 15 million. I'm sure Tiger King 2 might do that.
Yeah. There's a couple scenarios where a part 2 might be plausible. Some was to happen. Another one of the characters, such as Carole or Doc and Tell or Jeff Lowe, one of them was to go down. I could see them doing a part 2.
Who's the next one to go down? The sheriff in Tampa, Chad Chronister, has set up like a tip line. If you knew where the meat grinder is that Carole may have put her husband, and obviously Jeff Lowe has some shady dealings in the past. Who do you think is? Do you think that there's another person that goes to jail from the Tiger King deal?
I think it's a toss-up between Jeff Lowe and Doc Intel.
Doc Antel, he's just running bitches and having fun. Like, what's he doing wrong?
Well, what was Joe doing wrong? I mean, they're all part of the Tiger trade.
Do you think that Carole? Do you think Carole gets off? What's your opinion on the whole big Carole Baskin controversy? And strictly, this is your opinion and mine because we obviously live in Tampa and she could hear this. And I'm not trying to. I'm saying alleged. What do you think possibly, as your opinion, went down with her?
Look, I've seen the evidence. There's even more evidence than what was shown. Joe had a huge folder full of evidence on Carole that he'd had someone go into her zoo, sneak in her office, and steal from there. And I've seen some crazy stuff that seems to indicate that maybe perhaps Carole Baskin did indeed kill her husband.
Now, how big of a documentary? Let's say.
Like what, though?
What do you mean?
Like he says he's seen a bunch of stuff that makes it look like. So, like what, for instance?
Just, messages, videos, just all kinds of stuff that it makes it seem real suspicious.
And if if this Tiger King did 40 million, if they would get her and indict her or at least put her on trial for what they allege she may have done, that would be 100 million people would watch that, don't you think?
Oh, I think so. It'd be wild.
Joshua Dial on the phone, former campaign manager of Joe Exotic. Josh, when the biggest misconception is, and right now, by the way, Josh has a GoFundMe account because Josh didn't make anything from this. Oh, I'm sorry, Jay. I got you right there. Go ahead, Jay. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask: did anyone make any money out of this?
Josh, I was just getting ready to ask. People have this big misconception. Oh my God, it's the hottest documentary in the history of the world. I bet you Josh is, rolling around in a brand new, Ford F-150. I don't know that you made anything, did you, Josh?
No. I didn't make anything. From my understanding, they just paid a couple of location fees. Which is kind of standard practice from my understanding in the business. But no, Netflix has yet to reach out to me. I'm still working at a grocery store.
That's crap too, because they should go back and count the number of days everyone filmed and pay them their day rates.
And Josh,
especially made this much money.
And Josh, if I can speak for you, Josh, and back it up, the fact that Josh has some mental issues and needs some counseling with, don't forget, Josh is the one that saw Travis kill himself in that little trailer deal.
Which must have been brutal.
And we can get into that momentarily. And Josh, you really could use some help. And you're not talking about let me buy a brand new truck. You're talking about getting some counseling to deal with some of the stuff that you were exposed to, on this documentary. And you would think that Netflix or whoever made the money on this would say, listen, you know what, kid, we're going to set you up with some counseling. We're going to set you up with, something here. And that's all you're asking for, isn't it, Josh?
Yeah, it is. I'm not asking for any kind of, I'm a simple guy. I've got an apartment. I've got everything I might want. I've got a good running car. I just want to make myself right and heal from the wounds that never got healed. When Travis died, I had to go back in that office the next day and every day thereafter for over a year.
So after Travis killed himself, you then went back to work at that very same, 6 feet from where it happened for over a year.
Exactly. And I never got counseling. I've seen a psych doctor off and on for meds to kind of keep some of my rage and anxiety and dreams under control. I never really got it fully treated, with an actual round of counseling and stuff like that. So it's just kind of a wound that's just kind of festered in my soul almost.
By the way, we will have a link to Josh's GoFundMe account. He is trying to raise $15,000.
He's almost there. He's about 900 short.
Josh, you better raise it up because our show might put you over the edge on that, buddy.
It's been amazing. The outpouring of support from just people everywhere has just been amazing. I never would have dreamed it in a million years.
Did you ever eat any of the expired meat that came in off the Walmart truck?
Oh yeah, yeah. There'd be many a time where most of the time where we get off work and we wouldn't have the money to go to Walmart and get something to eat or go somewhere and get something to eat. So we just take the meat that wasn't picked through by Joe, and we take it and
and eat. Now again,
anybody ever taste tiger?
Yeah, I mean. I don't think people eat tiger.
Oh, they don't eat dogs, but they do eat dogs. They don't eat cats, but they do eat cats. They don't eat bats, but they eat bats. I mean,
Josh, I don't think that you ate tiger, did you?
No, I didn't, but Joe did tell me that tiger testicles are very tasty.
I bet. You know what? I would be of all body parts. I would say that
Travis and Travis's.
Yeah. Did you mean Travis? You meant Travis's testicles, not the tigers. So, Josh, what is your GoFundMe account?
I'm sorry.
What is your GoFundMe address? It's GoFundMe. Is it Joshua Dial?
Yeah, it was set up by one of my friends in the Libertarian Party.
It's counseling for Joshua Dial.
Counseling for Joshua Dial.
Yes.
And Joshua, it's cool to see people are giving you a little bit of money, because it's not like you're trying to go out and buy a new boat or anything like that. I've heard a few interviews and seen a few things with you, and you're like, I just want to get a little bit of money to be able to help me with some medical expenses and some counseling, because you do probably need to talk to some counselors and try to wrap your head around, why you are thinking certain ways. So I find it admirable that you set it at 15,000, not trying to get like 150,000. Now, speaking of which, Joshua, who made all the money? If this is the most successful documentary of all time, did Rebecca and the other guy make all the money? And do you have any idea what that would be?
I'm not sure who made the money. I was told that they did not make a bunch of money, that they sold it, and then whoever they sold it to then sold it to Netflix. But I don't buy that. I don't.
Well, you know what? I mean, Josh, the way Hollywood works is, man, a lot of times on your first deal, they just absolutely rape you for as an opportunity to have another deal. And so maybe Rebecca and whomever sent it to, sold it to some production company for $1 million. And then they sold it to Netflix for $2 million, and Netflix, has now made all the money. I mean, that's the way Jay, isn't that the way a lot of Hollywood stuff works?
Absolutely.
Is it,
Absolutely. And I guarantee you that, when they were doing this documentary, they didn't have any idea what the potential was, but Netflix is the one that's making all the money on this one.
Josh, has the Tiger King phenomenon, has it changed your life? I mean, obviously that part of your life was probably not so cool, but has your life gotten better, and has it caused you any pain, or is it, have people been pretty cool about it?
It's a little bit of both. It's caused quite a bit of pain. Like, I haven't actually watched the documentary because it's just too much for me. Like, the furthest I've gone is I watched the Fox TMZ special. And, like, I just have so many mixed emotions about the whole thing. Like, there was a segment where they had a portion of Joe laughing, and I hadn't heard his laugh since he got arrested. And, like, it was weird because I thought I had no feelings, as far as, like, wanting Joe to be free or anything like that. But I heard his voice, and I started crying. And, like, I don't know why. That's, like, why I kind of want to go to counseling because, this guy messed me up pretty bad.
Did he ever try sexually anything with you?
No, I was about 28 years old, which is about 10 or 15 years too old for him.
Oh, God.
When Travis killed himself, and, probably one of the most, I know that you've probably seen this footage if you've not watched the documentary, but one of the most riveting pieces of footage in the entire series is the Travis suicide. And it almost looks like they paused the tape with you having your mouth open and being in shock. But really, for, 15 or so seconds, you basically were just absolute frozen, freaked out beyond belief. And can you recant? And I don't mean to bring up, Joshua, a bad memory, because I wouldn't want somebody to make me recant seeing something like that. But it was a major part of the documentary. And are you okay with discussing that?
Yeah.
And so when it happened, I've heard you say that you thought that Travis, who liked to always be joking and, pulling pranks, was just screwing around and it wasn't real.
Yeah, I mean, it looked so fake because the blood was coming out of the side of his head like a super soaker, like a water gun. You know, it was just like pressurized, and it was just going everywhere.
Oh my God!
And the bullet hole was just like the size of a pinhole. I mean, he didn't like blow his skull apart. I mean, it just went straight through one side and right out the other, and the bullet went into the wall. They never even covered up the hole in the wall. But I mean, that was just shock.
So Josh, for a year, when you would go to work, you could literally see that bullet a few feet from your desk, probably.
Yeah.
That's
and
crazy.
these people knew I needed help because I would kind of just, and I still do this from time to time, but not as bad as when I worked there. I would just kind of stare off into space and stare at the bullet hole and just totally forget myself, not be able to move, not be able to talk or anything. And the people working with me would have to like physically start snapping in front of my face and, lightly tap me on my face, like, Josh, snap out of it.
But that was a complete accident, right? I mean, there's no question he was not trying to kill himself. That was a mistake. Right?
It was a mistake. He accidentally killed himself. He didn't think the gun would go off. He was just trying to prove a point that Rugers wouldn't fire without a clip. And he to this day, I don't know if the clip was out or the clip was in. I told the cops the clip was out, and there was one in the chamber. I don't know the truth. I don't know that I ever will.
Did they ever come to you? I don't know who your was Joe the guy that you reported to, Joshua?
Yeah. I reported to Joe.
Did you ever go to Joe and say, "Hey, Joe, listen, if I'm gonna run your campaign here for running for governor, can you put me in a different office? I can't come in here every day. It's freaking me out."
Yeah, I did.
Let me tell you something. You just like what did he say, Josh?
Well, it's my husband.
It's my husband. Now I'm going to set this big memorial with.
How often did Joe wear that EMS jacket?
No, he didn't.
We found it very odd in the fact that the minute that Travis killed himself, that Joe has this full-blown EMT jacket on.
Oh, no, that was when she got her arm ripped off, I thought.
With Saf.
Now, were you there when that happened, Joshua?
No, I wasn't, but as part of my punishment for not immediately going and trying to save Travis, I had to watch the video where Saf got his arm ripped off.
What?
Hold on, Josh.
Wait.
The documentary. Hold on. The documentary never said this. So you're saying that Joe punished you because you didn't go and offer immediate mouth-to-mouth, like you can save a guy that's blown his brains out. Like, Dan, you're a doctor. I don't know that there's anything a guy can do. Can you, Dan?
Nope.
All right. So Joe, that straight hilljack and white trash piece of crap, punished you and by making you watch the video footage of the girl getting her arm bitten off by the tiger.
Yes.
I don't even know.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
I don't even know what to say,
Completely
Josh.
shocked. Yeah, that's.
Was there anything else like that happened that they didn't show in the documentary? Or I guess if you didn't see it, you don't know. But
I mean, maybe is everyone portrayed correctly?
Yeah, I mean, is there anything that you've heard, Josh, that they've either left out? Like, that's obviously. Did the documentary people know that? Did you tell them that?
I think I've told them that. I mean, the thing is, there was tons of interviews. There was like 6 or 7 interviews that I did all together, and only 2 of them made it into the documentary.
They've got a whole new show on the editing floor.
Oh my God! I would say
5 episodes.
I think another huge spot would be Joe Exotic punished Joshua Dial, his campaign manager, because Joshua didn't go stick his finger in Travis's bullet hole and made him watch the girl get her. I mean, that is bad, Josh.
That's
hardcore. You do need help, and I don't necessarily know you wouldn't have a claim against stupid ass Joe Exotic and some of the things he made you do.
Yeah, no doubt. And like a lot of people are out there wanting to on Joe Exotic's side, and I've just been speaking the truth about this stuff. I'm trying to be. I'm just trying to be balanced here. I saw what I saw at the park and what I said. It's true that Joe was set up for the murder for hire. Does that make him a good person? Absolutely not. Everything I've just told y'all is the truth. He was an awful person. He was. It's just, he took care of his employees in a sense that they made sure they had a roof over their head, the food on the table, even if it was expired meat. You know, he did a lot for people to help people.
But he also was also a dick too, was he not?
Oh, he was. He was big time.
Yeah, we know the feeling,
always.
Josh. If Joe,
if Josh, they're calling me a dick, by the way. They're calling me a dick.
yeah, hey, if Joe gets out of prison anytime soon, would you talk to him?
You know, we were talking about that last night because I really think that he has a good chance of being granted either clemency or a pardon. And if not either of those, he has a good chance at raising enough money to hire a good lawyer to do an appeal. I think Joe Exotic to get out of prison before he dies.
And would you talk to him?
If he reached out, I'd talk to him.
Okay.
If he apologized and he said, "Hey, Josh, you know, I did some real stupid stuff," and you know, would you at least entertain listening to him?
I would accept his apology, but I would not I would not go back and work for him. I mean,
what do you think about what do you think?
If you don't mind saying, what kind of pay do you think that like yourself and those guys were making?
I'm sorry.
How much were you getting paid to be the campaign manager? If you want to say.
Oh, I'd rather not say.
Okay.
I mean, I got to think that it probably wasn't a lot, right?
No.
Did Joshua Dial on the phone? By the way, he's the guy that was part of the Tiger King documentary. He was Joe Exotic's campaign manager and is the guy that had to witness the Travis suicide. Did you ever take Joe? You sound like a pretty sensible guy, Josh. Did you ever take Joe aside and said, Joe, we don't have a chance in hell to win this government deal. There's no way. I mean, or did you have to constantly blow smoke up his ass to be able to feed his ego to keep it going?
Sure, we did. And the easiest way to do that was to create like a Facebook or Twitter poll and post it on the internet, because he'd always win those because he had such a huge following from outside Oklahoma that he'd always win because all the animal rights folks would vote for him in that poll and make it look like he was winning. So yeah, and there were a couple of scenarios. For instance, our party, the Libertarian Party in Oklahoma, chose not to allow independents to vote in our primary for that election. Had they allowed independents to vote, there was a good chance that he may have got the nomination and went on to run up against the Republican and Democratic nominee in November.
Do you think that Joe was set up by Jeff? Do you think that Jeff had a lot to do with Joe's incarceration? I kind of do.
Yes. Look at the facts of the case. It's all there, plain and simple. I know these folks are not good, decent family men. Alan Glover and Jeff Lowe, they're not. They're con artists, they're con men, and they're no better than Joe Exotic.
Now, when we watched the documentary, we took from it. I didn't know how big of a dick Joe was to people like you, so I have a different perspective now a little bit. But it did kind of look like the average. I mean, and you guys tell me if you agree or not, where the government kind of flim-flammed him on the murder for hire deal, and then once they got that, then they were able to tic-tac some other things on. But for the most part, do you think that they kind of flim-flammed him on the murder for hire deal?
I do, because I was told that how the investigation started out originally was out of the Fish and Wildlife Department. And it was the USDA who had sent investigators to the zoo regarding animal rights violations. And it was only then that they started that investigation that they decided to entrap Joe into, paying an undercover FBI agent allegedly.
And I mean, and Carole's huge. I mean, Carole has really, really mastered how to get, online support. She was one of the early persons in on, having YouTube and Facebook and being able to talk to a few million people. She's really done well she's a great marketer and what have you. But I think that all the money, that she may have gotten from her ex and the various other, donations and what have you, that she kind of out-moneyed Joe and, buried him with legal and what have you. I mean, towards the end of it, Joe pretty much was indebted to her, wasn't it?
Yeah, he owed her a judgment of $1 million, plus he had tons of court bills. yeah, they spent together between the two of them, just the two of them alone, millions of dollars trying to destroy each other. Good money that could have been, well spent to build a nice tiger preserve or, do something to help these species in their natural habitat.
Do you think was Joe nice? Were the tigers treated well, Josh, or were they abused? As well. I got to think that everything that Joe was involved with somewhat got abused, whether it be mentally or physically or whatever. But were the tigers taken care of, or not?
I never seen any tigers being abused. The closest thing I think to abuse would be the cub petting thing, because they'll have a cub come in, a little baby tiger, and every 15 minutes they've got, groups of families that pay $50 for two people, $5 each additional person, to get a picture taken in private playtime with the baby tiger. Now that causes stress on the tiger, and especially if the caretaker isn't giving them the right diet. They'll have diarrhea constantly. And I've seen many occasions where those baby tigers will have diarrhea so bad that they wipe their rear ends with wet wipes so much that they start bleeding.
Do you think that the Tiger King documentary phenomenon, for the lack of a better term, is just going to, when we're over the Corona deal and we're somewhat back to normal, do you think that place is just going to be packed? I bet you every white trash guy, they're going to plan their vacations around being able to go out there.
I am.
And Jeff Lowe is just going to be straight getting paid when he might be as corrupt as all of them.
Yep. I saw after the documentary released and right before Oklahoma was shelter in place, that they had their two biggest days allegedly that they'd ever had when the documentary aired.
Is coconut oil big in Oklahoma?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Do you have any statistics or numbers? Like, you were the campaign manager, so you probably saw money there and what have you. But what's a good day at the park? Is it 50 grand, 25 grand? Like, what's a good day at the park with the pizza shop and all that included?
Oh gosh, I have no idea. Thing about Joe is he's real good about compartmentalizing and keeping all his business spread out between multiple assistants and help. And money was never anything that I was allowed to mess with.
Even as the campaign manager, were you able to?
No. The bank account actually for the campaign, my name wasn't even on it. I had to have the secretary for the zoo or Joe himself call the bank just so I could get a statement.
Do you think there was any shenanigans going on with the campaign financing?
I'm sorry?
Do you think there was any kind of, inappropriate campaign financing stuff that went on?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Joshua Dial on the phone from Tiger King. You can go to counseling for Joshua Dial from Dial for Tiger King for his GoFundMe, trying to raise some money for various therapy and mental help. If inevitably Hollywood's going to be here, there's going to be a movie. Who plays Joshua Dial? Jonah Hill?
That is who I've seen a lot in the post. I'd like to think more of myself. I'd like to think Mark Ruffalo or something. Not because I look like him, just because I love Mark Ruffalo.
You're obviously a campaign manager. Joe Exotic hired you, and you had him to work with. What if a legitimate candidate wanted to cash in on the Tiger King phenomenon and hire you to be a campaign manager? Would you want to do that again on a legitimate candidate?
Andrew Yang?
Yeah. I will say I do like Andrew Yang quite a bit. As a, I'm not a Democrat. I'm a libertarian, but I love a politician who doesn't mind speaking truth to power.
Oh, I think you have the best quote of the entire documentary when you said, "I'm a libertarian, so technically, F the feds." That was the best quote.
Yeah, so many people don't realize that libertarians even exist, but we're the third biggest political party in the United States. we don't like the Fed.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know anybody that likes the Fed personally.
Last question, Josh. There was some kind of samurai sword incident involving you back in the day. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so I lived when I worked at the zoo for a time. I had to move in with my grandma because my uncle, who is in prison right now for meth, selling meth. He was living with my grandma and abusing her, verbally abusing her. So I moved back in, bought a sword, put my foot down, told him, don't get violent with her. And he got violent with her, tried to attack and punch her. I defended myself and my grandmother, and the judge released me from the charges.
I said, listen, man, when you're defending grandma with a samurai sword from methed out Uncle Boy, no big deal, buddy. Nothing to see here.
What were the charges?
What I ended up walking away with was a ticket for having a sword that the blade was too long.
Yeah, and you'll take that all day, won't you, Josh? You'll take that all day.
Yeah.
You'll take that deal all day, buddy, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of meth, how much meth? I mean, because the documentary really, really intimated it and talked about it quite a bit. Is the fact that the guys, Joe Exotic's husbands, were all, he kept them kind of strung along with meth. Did you see a lot of that? And is that truthful?
No, but it's truthful, and everyone knew that place was just a mess. I don't know. Just a cesspool full of mess. It's just, I never saw it though. I personally hate the stuff because, like I said before, I've got an uncle who has it. I've had to defend myself from people on meth rages before. It destroys families, it destroys lives. And, a lot of my family thought that I was doing it when I went over to work for him because of his reputation for meth. It was just a mess.
I got to tell you, the entire documentary, I think the only two people that didn't maybe have any kind of tinge of meth would be you and Carole Baskin. I mean, everybody looked kind of methed out on it, didn't it? I mean, the guy with no legs looked like he might be kind of methy. Travis was methy. I mean, everybody looked...
Travis's mom?
Travis's mom was methy. It seemed like there were a lot of people that were... I don't know that Doc Antle's methy, but, it seemed like meth was kind of an ongoing thing there.
Yeah, it's a scourge. It is, and I like to think it's only here in Oklahoma, but it's not. It's all around the country.
White trash. Anywhere you got white trash, you're going to have meth.
Yeah.
White trash loves meth for some reason.
Why not weed?
Yeah.
I don't know. Why not weed? Do you know how much more cooler everybody would have been, Josh, if everybody was on weed instead of meth and they're just all chilled out, not really caring about nothing?
No, that's how I survived it. Thank Lord for the medical marijuana cards is all I got to say, because I don't know how I would have done it without it.
Man,
Same thing with Seth.
the medical marijuana industry is missing the boat by not getting Joshua Dial as their spokesperson saying, you've seen Tiger King, and the only thing that made it help, and the only reason why I'm here speaking to you as a normal man mostly, is because of weed.
Come get your new strain called Dial.
Why, well, come get the new Joshua Dial Redbud and let it eat.
New spokesperson.
By the way, I think that, and Babyface is asking for more questions, I really think that you could do a show or do something
Seth wants to do a podcast with you immediately.
Going into more detail about being forced to watch what happened to Saf.
That's an intense story.
Yeah, that is. Anyway, Josh, I'd love to have you back on and continue to promote your GoFundMe. I think I have another series of questions if you're available maybe next week or something. I'd love to push your stuff and maybe have you back on. I really think that out of all of them, you probably have your act together the most. I think you're the most media savvy. I think this guy's pretty cool.
Hey, I appreciate it. I'd be happy to be back on. I'd be remiss if I did not say I am doing cameos, so you can find me on Cameo. If you do not want to donate and you want a shout out.
How much? How much you charging for a shout out?
How much is Joshua Dial ticking me for a cameo?
Well, they set the price. I think they got me set at like $70 a piece.
All right, $70 for a Joshua Dial.
How much of that do you get?
Probably gets half.
Oh, they cut quite a bit out of it.
Story your
and
life.
it's definitely not a quit your job thing. kind of thing. But, if I was to need to take a leave of absence again, it'd be a nice way of, continuing income and, still being able to do some kind of work.
We live in Tampa, as you know, and we got Carole Baskin in our very own backyard, and she scares the hell out of me. Tell you that right now. She is an evil bitch, in my opinion. In my personal opinion, she is an evil bitch.
She's hot, though.
When she was 17.
Yeah. Hey, you got to admit, man, she was looking pretty good when she was, walking down Nebraska looking for her first husband. She looked pretty stellar back then. Hey, Josh, I'm going to have my Josh reach out to you, and maybe we can have you back on with a few more questions next week if it's okay.
All right, sounds great.
Hey, Josh, good luck to you, and we'll promote your stuff for you, buddy, all right?
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Man, some interesting stuff there.
Yeah, that's
one of which I don't know that he's ever spoke about the fact that he got penalized for not immediately giving medical attention to Travis, who blowed his brains out.
Yeah, Lummy was having flashbacks.
I know. It sounds like something around here. That's lonely coconut oil with 1,000 bits.
But the way he described it's like a Quentin Tarantino film, that it's shooting pressurized blood out of his head against the wall. That's intense, man. I mean, what
and
did
then
Joe
having to go to
Exotic
work for
expect
a
him
year,
to do?
having to go to work for a year and see the bullet.
Oh my God! Could you imagine your card would be on red, Seth, constantly?
But that just listening to him talk and the whole scene, and I think probably the reason why I can't get through the show is super depressing.
I agree.
Oh,
like there's not like
it's not good for your mentals, kid.
It's not good for them. It's not even where you feel like you're better than anybody on that show. I feel like I watch that show and then I go, there's places like this all over the world where we're not even, these people aren't on Netflix, and that starts to get me more depressed.
Shut up, Seth, you're dumb.
The Bubba Radio Network will return after this.